Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this great world of ours. Today is July 28th, 2026. It is day 44 of my video challenge. Right off the bat, as you may have noticed or not noticed, doesn't matter either way, I've missed a couple of days in my challenge. 2 days I was out because I was at an event over the weekend. And then Monday, yesterday, um, I just needed some downtime. I needed some time to think and reflect. And every time I thought about doing a video, sort of my body just told me no. And I really fought with that because I had set up this challenge to do one every day, no matter unless I had planned to be out, right? So I planned to be out for my birthday, and that was fine. And then I planned to be out for those 2 days that I was at this event, and that was fine, right? It wasn't me just kind of like shrugging it off and saying, I'll do it later, and then never doing it later. Um, and when I set up this challenge for myself, it was to accomplish a couple of things. And the number one thing was to, as I said, to do videos until I felt comfortable doing videos. To move past that resistance I'd had. The anxiety, sometimes even the panic attacks. And I believe I've done that, right? This is my 44th video um, in 47 days. So, I've accomplished that. I have gotten over, and I can sit here unscripted and talk. Um, and so I have, to a large extent, I won't say completely, but to a large extent, I have accomplished that goal of overcoming the anxiety of doing videos, the anxiety of perfectionism when you're trying to create something polished and perfect, right? So the whole point was for me to not be have anything really prepared other than maybe something, that a thought that pops up in my head, and I want to talk about that. Um, and so yeah, I've accomplished that. I've still got some other goals. One of the other goals was to get to the point where I could really allow myself to just speak extemporaneously, just allow things to come out, be in that space of flow, as they call it, right? Be in that flow space. Um, and I think I have come a long way in that. I don't know if I'm exactly where I want to be on that, but I think I'm making really good progress with just kind of being able to hop on. I still have some hesitation, some reservations. If I don't have, if like nothing comes to mind, and so I feel like that's still a a hurdle that I'm trying to completely navigate. Right, is that time when just nothing is coming to mind, turning the camera on and just trusting that stuff is going to come up. So that's still one of my hurdles. I do feel that as I get through that, as I navigate past that hurdle, what will naturally come up is me wanting to sit down and plan topics out. Right. I already have like quite a few topics that I know I want to talk about, but I want to do them. I want to put some effort into them. Um, and this is kind of a danger area for myself. because some of the topics are complex enough that um, they can I can get there's a danger of me getting bogged down and trying to do too much too soon. Um, so that'll be a challenge to put preliminary efforts into a video, or put efforts into maybe a video that serves as a sort of introduction to a topic I want to talk about at length. Some of these topics, maybe they're like several videos long. I don't know. Then that's something I got to kind of learn as I go. Um, a lot of that has to do with sort of spirituality and Jungian psychology, where we're talking about archetypes and what that means to individuals, both male and female. For example, the Disney, the especially the very early Disney cartoons, the classic Disney cartoons, which are taken from old old fables, right? Like, you know, Snow White and Rapunzel and um, Cinderella, and they always have, the it the and what's interesting. So the criticism, it's always the prince saving the woman. It's always the male prince saving or rescuing the woman. Um, and on the surface, yeah, that's what it seems like. That's the surface level. Although if you think about those three ones that I just mentioned, Cinderella, Snow White, Rapunzel, the main character is the woman, right? The woman is the main character. The prince is not the main character. The whole story revolves around the woman. Well, the reason why that is set up that way is it's not talking about actual individuals. These stories are a metaphor for our internal dynamic between our masculine and our feminine. And it's always the case that the masculine is the active aspect of each human being. Every human being, regardless of what you are, male, female, your inner masculine is the active part of you. Your inner feminine is the essence that just is, right? It's not an active part. It is the part that, it's the defining part. It's the part that defines who you are, um, in your essence, not what you do, not the actions that you take, right? Your masculine is the actions that represents your ability to take action, and the actions you choose to take, right? But your feminine is your essence. So the masculine taking action on your feminine, right, to save your feminine, is basically you choosing yourself. That's what those talk about. It's do we do we do we choose ourselves, right? Let's just Cinderella right off the bat. Um, the glass slipper. Why a glass slipper? So the prince spies the woman of his dreams, and he goes around um, the land checking to see each woman who can fit in the glass slipper. A glass slipper does not bend or yield, stretch, any of that. Your foot either fits in it or it does not. And so what that is representing is that, when it comes to our masculine self, our active mind, our discernment, our ability to choose and take action, it's the idea of you are looking for what's authentically you, not you trying to you know, bend and twist and contort yourself into something that you think is you based on, you know, the world around you. What people say, your parents are like, go to school to be an engineer, or, you know, be a doctor or a lawyer, or, oh, you can never do that. That'll never make money, kind of a thing. And so you try and do those things and you realize that it's not really you. It doesn't fit, right? And so that's what the glass slipper represents. It's, you know, you're looking for your authentic essence, and he doesn't care if you're, you know, what you look like. So when he's checking all of these women around, it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter if they're wealthy or poor or part of the royalty or common born. They have to be the perfect fit. They have to be authentic. And so that's when he comes to Cinderella, who is, you know, the lowliest of the low, the scullery maid, not even a recognized full daughter of the family she's in. You know, just the lowest of the low in terms of society in that day, and her foot fits perfectly into the slipper, and the prince says, ah, you're the one. This is the true fit, right? And again, that's a reflection of our masculine mind finding our authentic essence and choosing that and accepting whoever that is, whatever that is, right? Not doesn't have that's the again the glass slipper. It's not going to change. It's solid, and that form, you either fit it or you don't, right? And so those kinds of stories require a deep dive, and I want to be able to do justice to that. But then I don't want to get caught up in like, yeah, the quicksand of how deep that can go. And so anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm trying to, and also I need to redefine my commitment. Sort of as I'm working my way, as I'm growing in these videos, my commitment is changing. And I need to try and sit down and figure out where I am, not only with what am I committing to, but also really taking a close look at my level of commitment. And that's something that really came up in this weekend event. So I went to a weekend event. It was called a discernment event. And, you know, when I left my life in California 10 years ago, I mean, I kind of knew it at the time, but I was really resisting it. I was at a point where I needed to just let go of everything that I had done there, every you know, who I had made myself to be, who, you know, really let that go and find not like the same thing here in Kansas City, but something completely new. And and I've really not been able to find it. I've tried a couple of different things, you know, real estate. I started really going into spirituality, studying spirituality, you know, Reiki energy healing, meditation, all that kind of stuff. I thought maybe that was going to be an avenue for me. And I find all of those things very interesting and very useful tools, although I wasn't really called, as much as it sounded like the right thing for me, there wasn't quite the call for me to do that. And I can't, it's hard to explain, because I think they're wonderfully useful tools. Um, uh, and I'm still trying to figure out where I stand on all of that, because I do like, you know, meditation, the breathing, um, the Reiki energy. I think every human being on earth should learn Reiki to become more aware of their own energy. It's like personal hygiene, right? Like checking in with your own energy and understanding. In the very beginning, I couldn't feel like I was like, I don't know, I think I'm doing it. But now I can feel energy very, very easily. Like 10 years later, I can feel energy very easy. I can feel other people's energy. I know it's their energy, not my energy. Um, and it's like everything in life, the more you practice, the easier it gets, and the better you get. And so my belief is everybody should learn Reiki like we learn, nutrition and brushing our teeth and stretching out, staying limber and active and all those kinds of things, right? It is like taking a shower, and that's really kind of like almost the closest thing I can say. Reiki is like learning how to take a shower, like how to just get all the daily dust off of you, and calm yourself and come back within and not be way out here all the time. Yeah. But so this event was looking at potentially going into Lutheran ministry. And it's something that if you would have asked me even a couple of years ago, I would have laughed at that. Um, but like my father was a minister when I was very, very young. And he left the ministry to go on to get his PhD in counseling psychology, and he became a Christian counselor. I've never considered myself a Christian, although I've gone to church um, infrequently growing up. The big ones: Christmas, Easter, those kinds of things. Um, and there's a part of me that doesn't want to do this because it was what my father did, and I don't want to do what my father did. I want to be me. I want to be an individual. But what if being me is, that I mean, I didn't feel this way when I was in college and I was thinking about getting my PhD in counseling psychology. I didn't have that same thing. Maybe a little bit of it, but not that much. But through these years that I've been home, one of my biggest sources of um, stability and sanctuary, I mean, there's no other way to call it other than sanctuary, was the last church that my dad went to. He and I kind of found it together. His church had closed down and he was looking for a new place, and we both went the first day. And as soon as I walked in, I just looked up at the place and I said, this is it. This is the one. It was the first one we went to. He had three he wanted to look at. I was like, no, this is it. It had very old Norse Scandinavian architecture, interior, in the interior, which I had just started studying at that point. That was a big coincidence. And then also they had a female pastor. One of my complaints against Christianity has been its open misogyny for, as long as it's been around, 17 centuries, right? And so seeing a female pastor there, I said, okay, this is um, a green flag for me, right? This is a green means go. Um, and that place has been a really great community for me and a place of sanctuary for me as I have taken this 10-year long ride, this rough and tumble ride of trying to figure out who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And in January of this year, back in 2019, I just started volunteering because I finally kind of got over myself, and I'm like, stop, just let your stories go. Stop judging a book by its cover, and just, this is a group of good people, and you like being around them. Just go. And so I started volunteering more, and I really enjoyed the volunteering. And when we had COVID, I helped set up the Zoom desk so that they could, um, everybody could attend church remotely and that sort of thing. And then I've just sort of done more and more volunteering. And then at one point, one of the people who was being the assistant to the minister during the sermons, during the service, was stepping down for health related reasons, and they needed somebody to help fill that gap. And I said I would do it. And immediately, well, first of all, the most astonishing thing was that I had no anxiety about it, and I wasn't having panic attacks. And that is extremely unusual, especially because I'm going to be in an outfit. I've got to put an outfit on. I'm going to be standing in front of the whole congregation. I would have panic attacks when I was up in the choir loft, just leading, being the song leader, right? I wasn't even the only person singing. The whole congregation was singing. I was just being the song leader, singing into a microphone, kind of setting the pace and the melody and all that kind of stuff. And I would have panic attacks about that, but I didn't have any panic attacks about being in this outfit up in front of the whole congregation, right next to the pastor. So that was remarkable. That was remarkable. I was like, whoa, whoa, like that. It really stands out as unusual for me. And then immediately everyone there just said, wow, you're so good up there. And for me, I thought, really? I'm just, I'm standing up here, I'm wearing this outfit, and I'm reading my lines out of a book. How hard is that? Um, but despite that, every time I go up and I'm the assistant, I get so many people coming up to me just saying, hey, you are like, we love your presence up there. Your voice is amazing. And I really think you found your calling. And you can't ignore that kind of stuff. You can't. You just, if you're in a place in life where you're looking for, like, what should I be doing with the rest of my life? And even though I never thought about being a Christian minister, and even, the idea of that really kind of raises a lot of hackles in me in some ways. When I lay all that aside and I think about what I really like about going to the church, about how it is that our pastor has created an environment where people feel safe, and a community of people where we can all get along as loving, civil people despite our political differences, which I think is a miracle in and of itself. We have Trump supporters there, as well as transgender people, and they all not only treat each other respectfully, but respect each other as people and respect their differences, which again, I think is a miracle, right? I've never once heard any of those people who are Trump supporters say, I don't think we should have LGBTQ plus people in our congregation. Never. And that is amazing. That is the whole point of Christianity, is to go beyond our personal ideas and just accept people as who they are, and try and make the best of it with each other, right? That's the whole point, right? So, and I just thought, wow, this has been so important in my journey of my journey into the wilderness, right? I have been lost in the wilderness for so long. And I really consider, like, I just turned 49, or sorry, there we go, 59. And, from the ages of really 18 until now, I have been lost. I have just been lost. And even when I thought I knew where I was going, I really wasn't. That wasn't really me. And I knew that was me. Like, even when I was in the military, I had people in the military look at me and go, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here in the military? Like, you do not belong here. And I was like, I don't know. This kind of just felt like I was supposed to be here. I don't know. I didn't, I just didn't know, right? I didn't have any. I went in the military because my karate instructor, when I was in high school, was the only person in my life who asked me what my plan was for after high school. He was ex-Special Forces. So what did I do? I went in, Army Infantry Airborne Special Operations. And I was good at it, but that's not where I was supposed to be. When I was in the video game industry, I was sitting down talking to one of the women in marketing, Lily. And I'd kind of mentioned, my degree work in college, and she just looked at me and she's like, "What are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here? Like you are wasting your talents." And yeah, it struck home. And that was really the same year that I decided to leave, right? And there were so many things that I enjoyed about the video game industry, and mostly it was the people. I really enjoyed the people I worked with. There were a lot of people I worked with that I didn't like because there was a lack of accountability, and it caused people to lose their jobs. So I was very angry about that, right? The other thing I didn't like about the video game industry is that it's not for everyone, but it can be an extremely addictive. And we don't address that really in the video game industry. We won't address that. Refuse to. And I got to a point where I felt like I was working for a drug cartel. And I didn't feel good about that. I could give games out to anybody I wanted to. And I didn't want to, especially if they had children. I didn't, And so when you are making a product that you don't want to even give to your friends for free, you should not be making that product, right? That is not a good thing. And so, yeah, it's like Moses who wandered in the desert for 40 years. I feel like I've been wandering in the desert for 40 years. And one of the things that came up in this discernment event was commitment. I have been looking for commitment my whole life, and yet also simultaneously very afraid to commit. And as a trained psychologist or somebody who has a degree in psychology and degree in philosophy, I can kind of look at myself and go, you know what? My parents never really committed to me. None of the adults when I was growing up committed to me. And I have desperately been looking for someone to commit to me my whole life, and looking to commit, to someone. And what I realized in retrospect is that the person I really needed to commit to all these years was myself. I needed to commit to myself. And in doing so, would have found the right path in life. Right? There's a lot of things I've done in life, but they've always been kind of, one foot in, one foot out, because I wasn't fully committed to, not to that thing, but to myself. I wasn't doing that thing because, I was doing that thing as a means to an end, not because I'm committed to myself and I know that this is the right thing for me. And that's one of the secrets in life. You got to commit. You got to commit to yourself, full commitment. I have a friend of mine, Vlad, who used to use this metaphor of, like, when it comes to commitment, are you the chicken or the pig? The first time he told me that, I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, when it comes to breakfast, the chicken and the pig both commit to providing us breakfast. The chicken lays an egg, and the pig becomes bacon. So the chicken is 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, hey, here's an egg, go for it. And I'm heading over here. The pig has to die to become the bacon. So it's this idea of dying to your old self and transforming into something completely new. That is both feet in commitment, right? No going back. And so, yeah, I've been the chicken my whole life, and really have never been the pig. Willing to transform my old sense of self into something completely new. And so that's what really I realized, wow, this is what this is really asking of me, that whole discernment event the last 2 days. Are you the chicken or the pig? What's your level of commitment? And yeah, so I needed some time to think about that. And in case you're wondering, I'm still working on it, but I've decided I'm going to take the next step forward. One of the other things that I realized was that, because it asked me, what are you looking for here to get from this discernment event? And when I got really honest, I said, you know, I want somebody outside of me to tell me this is the right thing for me to do. And I also wanted to know exactly how everything was going to play out. Right? I wanted to know how everything was going to end before we got there. And that's just not how life works. But what I came to is I said, well, you know what? I am ready to take the next step to actually apply for this and to start, making changes in my life that if I get accepted, I can really start to shift things to, to move forward in this direction. Yeah. So we're at 32 minutes on. This is a long one. I'm sorry. I guess I had a lot of pent up stuff. I guess that's what happens when I don't talk for a couple of days. But if you are still with me, thank you. Thank you so much for being with me along on this journey. And please consider just clicking that like button. It's free for you and it helps me more than you know. And always, always remember, you are more loved than you know and far more valuable than you can imagine. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.